All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today. My name is Gary Basco. By the way, I am with Sellercloud. I'm an account executive over here. I do also have our good friend Nachman over at ConnectBooks, who's going to be going over a bunch of different features and functionality and how we're going to be able to be connecting our QuickBooks Online within our Sellercloud through ConnectBooks. I will go ahead and start by sharing my screen. We're going to do a quick dive into Sellercloud, just go over some of the different costing features and different reports that we're able to pull in and how that's going to relate into how ConnectBooks will be able to give you better visibility into your accounting. So I'm just going to give everybody here a rundown on Sellercloud, kind of what the features and the ecosystem that we develop for our customers. I know a lot of people here today are returning clients, customers using Sellercloud who are interested in connecting their QuickBooks. And I know we do have a number of customers here as well, clients today, who have not had a chance yet to see Sellercloud. So I'm going to give a quick breakdown on Sellercloud. Then we're going to go jump right into the actual accounting side of things. But nice and simple, when you first log in, we're going to be giving you a dashboard. So we're going to be giving you a snapshot of the business and what's happening, new orders that came in, shipped orders that went out. We do give you these 4 main modules over here. This is going to create the ecosystem inside of Sellercloud. Catalog being your PIM software. So this is going to be all about product information management, creating the different product offerings for your customers and connecting your marketplaces within the inventory that you have. Inventory, by the way, is the next module we like to talk about, which is the IMS, knowing where your inventory is, where it's going, where it's been. This is where we're going to be able to associate a lot of those costs on a warehouse level as well when we're going to be getting into the accounting side of things. Now, orders is the OMS, the order management system, and this is where we're going to be taking in all of those orders, looking at all of the costs and building profit and loss reports on a per order level for you with all those costs that are associated with the marketplaces. This is also a great feature because it ties into the IMS for some great order routing capabilities that we have in Sellercloud. And then last but not least is the purchasing module, where not only can we take into account all of the different purchase order costs and the shipping container costs that we might have for importing overseas, we also have some great forecasting tools to give you a better idea based on all of those costs on what you should be purchasing, but what you should also be restocking your various fulfillment centers. Now, most of the costs that we're going to be dealing with inside of Sellercloud are going to be on, say, your orders and on your purchasing. When we're dealing with the orders and system, we do pull up a lot of the different various costs when we're talking about selling on these marketplaces. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a quick Amazon FBA order in the system and show us over some of the different profit and loss tools that we're going to be pulling in and the costs. So we're getting your posting fees, your commission fees, your transaction fees and shipping costs. We also pull in the taxes that the marketplaces are collecting. Now, because we're dealing with the actual product posting and controlling your pricing, you'll also be able to look at things like your promotions. Purchasing, we can tie into things like rebates that you might be getting from your vendors as well to be able to give you a cash profit on a per order level. Now, the nice thing that Sellercloud does for your Amazons, your Walmarts, and for a number of different marketplaces, this is something that makes us unique as a multi-channel marketing solution, is the fact that we pull in and we reconcile a lot of these costs inside of the Sellercloud system. So those posting fees, commission fees, transaction fees, those marketplace costs, we do download the settlement reports and reconcile in the system. However, so that you can have day-to-day idea of what's going on with your cost details, we give you an expected cost for those Amazon orders, those Walmart orders, based on the categories and based on the marketplaces you have your products posted into, so you can still have a day-to-day profit and loss margin to work off of for your costing purposes. Now, as for purchasing, this is where we're going to be dealing with a lot of the additional costs that are going to be associated for when we're talking about how we calculate average cost in Sellercloud. We're going to jump into a quick test purchase order. And inside of the purchase orders, this is where you'll be able to see where you can add a lot of these different costs that are associated with the purchasing process, and then associate those various costs on a SKU level. You can do that based on total number of ordered. You can do that based on volume. So we do CBM, or we can also set up and associate those costs based on weight, depending on how you would like to associate those different purchasing costs. Now, on top of that, we're not just dealing with your purchase orders, but Sellercloud has the ability to take into account your shipping containers, where you can create and add a shipping container, multiple purchase orders or partial purchase orders to a single shipping container, and add on all of those various import costs, your duties, your freights, your tariffs, taxes, and then again, split those up on a product level based on individual unit, volume, or weight. Now, as you can see, Sellercloud does have a lot of fantastic reporting features and a lot of costs that can be associated inside of the Sellercloud system. The thing is, Sellercloud does not or is not a full accounting software. There are certain things that we don't look at, and this is where the QuickBooks side of things is going to really come into play. Because as you can see, it's a very powerful tool to be managing your costs and to be managing all of the different orders, the inventory, and the purchasing that's going to be happening in the e-commerce setting. But to be able to go ahead and get all of the true costs in there, that's where the QuickBooks comes in. Because where we deal with your transactional histories on there, the different costs that are associated with the refunds, the orders that are going out there as well, we don't look at the overhead costs. So we're not looking at the fees for, say, your own personal warehouse. We're not looking at the labor costs that are associated. And that's where it's really important to have something that can pull these costs out of Sellercloud and easily and simply get those costs into your QuickBooks, where then you can get all of the additional expenses that go into managing and working in the e-commerce space. Now, obviously, there's a number of different products Sellercloud does offer. Those were just some of the accounting features that we have. There's a number of different and various reports that you'll also be able to find within Sellercloud, not just your transactional reports, but inventory, warehouse valuation reports as well. We do take into account all of that, shipping costs, refunds, returns. All of this is going to go into being able to give you accurate profit and loss reports, transactional history reports, all within your Sellercloud account. And not only do we take care of all of the inventory and costing details that we can help you out with, Sellercloud is also going to help you out with the full fulfillment process as well within Sellercloud. So it's end-to-end fulfillment. We do have a bunch of other tools that if you guys are interested in, we would love to go ahead, set up demonstrations and discuss about. We've got warehousing tools for SKU stack, for mobile scanning, picking, packing, shipping, and getting employee performance tracking in the system. We offer a fantastic modular sorting wall that will be able to go ahead and take away any order mismanagement. This is going to give you full efficiency and accuracy within the actual sorting and shipping process. And then a number of other tools that are going to be coming in with your Sellercloud product suite, similar to like ShipBridge, which is our included shipping platform. Calculate your cheapest rates to ship, pull in that shipping cost, and have that now associated with those orders. Now, that's the bulk of what we're going to be talking about today for Sellercloud and the different accounting features that we have in Sellercloud. I'd like to go ahead and pass the ball on over to Nachman, who can start talking a little bit about how he's going to be able to take all of these different pieces of information that we have in Sellercloud and make it into an easy, automated, digestible way to push that info into your QuickBooks online accounts.
All right. Hi, everybody. And Gary, thanks for the introduction and thanks for helping out here. It's a pleasure. My name is Nachman. I'm the CEO and founder of ConnectBooks. All right. So we will be primarily focusing today on on getting the data from Amazon and getting the data from Sellercloud, combining everything into one easy export and just getting it with a click of a button into QuickBooks. So as we go through, we're going to jump in here. So what we're going to cover today, what is ConnectBooks? How did it start all about? What makes our product special? And how does the ConnectBooks plus Sellercloud work? And, why should you care about all this? So first thing is, what is ConnectBooks? ConnectBooks is the fastest, most accurate way to automate your e-commerce accounting and to gain clarity. So our mission is to automate your accounting and also to gain clarity. It's not just about, they say garbage in, garbage out. It's more about automating it and plus gaining, the clarity and understanding what's going on. So a bit of background about myself as you get to know the company a little bit. I graduated FDU with a master's degree in accounting. I've worked as a CFO in a wholesale kitchen company, which was carrying over 25,000 different SKUs. And part of this conversation will be having accurate cost of goods sold and having, understanding part of inventory valuation, which that can play a big role in your decision making in terms of profit, in terms of your profitability. Just as like a small example, if you're if your cost of goods sold is off at $100,000, then your P&L is off completely. So, that's kind of very important aspect to focus on the P&L, a kind of very important aspect to focus on the balance sheet. And that's kind of where I've spent 4 to 5 years drilling down into the items, making sure we have proper costs, and making sure our balance sheet is accurate, because otherwise your whole P&L is completely off. I did start a bookkeeping company in 2017. And plus, I also teach accounting and bookkeeping to anyone, to a local community here for people who are looking to get into the field. When I started my bookkeeping company in 2017, what I did was I spent hours going to Amazon and other sources, downloading full of different reports, building different spreadsheets, and importing the data to QuickBooks. As I was doing that, I decided, this would be a good idea if I can take all this work, automate it into a tool. I spoke to developers, and we originally decided to build ConnectBooks for ourselves. And as we started speaking with different companies, they were like, look, we have in-house bookkeepers, or we want to use a different bookkeeping company, or our accountant does it. And at that point, we decided that we're going to split it up. And that's where we came with the idea of ConnectBooks. Now, up till today, we are a team of 20, and we have set up over 1,000 Amazon sellers with clear books. We have processed over $8 billion in transactions. Now, what makes ConnectBooks special? So as you've seen, I said I started my bookkeeping company in 2017. Now, why am I mentioning that? Because the important part of the software is that it was built by accountants. There's a lot of good tools out there. There's a lot of good programs out there. But when it comes to accounting, it's a separate field. And our software is not built by programmers, which means to say is, obviously program is coded, but the idea how the program is built by accountants. So when it comes to accounting, you want to make sure you have the most up-to-date, you want your data is the most up-to-date. And you want to make sure it's done in a certain way where you kind of gain the clarity you need. You kind of understand what's going on in your business, and you have everything, broken out and done the proper way. I've had many times where I've had conversations with people, and they're like, yeah, well, we do this or we do that. And I'm like, by the way, if you do it that way, your books are completely not accurate. And just keep in mind, when you're selling $5 million a month, cost of goods sold to be thrown off at $50,000 is very, very easy to happen. And if your bottom line margin is 100,000, the cost of goods sold is off at 50,000, that's a really big difference. And I've seen that happen many, many times. So when it comes to accounting, it's not just about sending data over to QuickBooks. It's not just it's more how we send the data over to QuickBooks, how we help you set it up, and how we also make sure that the data is accurate. It's not just about pushing over data. And that makes ConnectBooks very unique, that it's actually built from an accountant vision, from a bookkeeping vision. And we actually used to do all this work ourselves. We did this manually, and then we decided to build this into a software so we can offer it for more people and help you automate your accounting. So now, what is the benefit of going with ConnectBooks with Sellercloud? Where did these two programs shine? So this is a little graph how the data works. So at the moment, ConnectBooks does is that they connect to Amazon, we connect to Shopify, we connect to Walmart, and we connect to eBay. What happens is we connect to all these marketplaces. So we get from Amazon every single sale, we get every single fee, we pull every single detail from Amazon, and then the only thing we're missing is the cost of goods per order. And then we also are missing the shipping cost per order. For example, if you're using their system to ship out your FBM orders, you'd want to know, let's say shipping cost is $5. Right. So we need to so what we do is we connect to Sellercloud. We pull the cost of goods sold per order. We get the cost of goods sold per order, plus we get the shipping cost per order from Sellercloud. And that syncs over to QuickBooks, syncs over to ConnectBooks. And then when ConnectBooks has the full picture, that's when it syncs over to QuickBooks. And then what happens is you'll be able to reconcile your bank account. So what that means is very simple. If you have like a disbursement of, let's say, $500,000, every ConnectBooks will connect to Amazon to pull every single order, every single fee on that order, and matching and reconciling up to the bank deposit. Additionally, we also then connect to Sellercloud to get the cost of goods sold and to get the shipping costs from Sellercloud, and to make sure we put the whole picture together. Then we take all that information, send it over to QuickBooks. Now you have your Amazon sales properly recorded in QuickBooks. And now when you want to do your bank reconciliation, it's just simply a click of a button. So what is in it for you? You get accurate and simple financial statements with a click of a button. You will get a proper accrual-based accounting. We can, if anybody wants to get more in that, they can always reach out to me later. And then we also will discuss about our new comparison reports, and what you can see. You can compare ad spend, profitability, the ACOS, the TACOS, and just get all that information. Plus, we give you a free one-on-one onboarding with a professional bookkeeper. So this is just a little review. As we were building out this process, we have worked with a Oberland & Co. and they offer virtual CFO services, and they had an existing Sellercloud and ConnectBooks customer that they were trying to help them out with their books, and they were having a hard time with it. Now, they were our actual beta tester, and this is what they had to say. ConnectBooks has revolutionized our virtual CFO services. It's a user-friendly interface, seamless integration with the e-commerce platform, having streamlined our clients' bookkeeping process, providing clear financial insights. The software automated features and real-time reporting capabilities allow me to efficiently manage financial data and identify trends, offering strategic guidance that drives business growth. So we have worked with this firm for, like, I'd probably say close to 3 months through the beta system. And this is, as you see, exactly what I have to say. They also heard that we will be launching a webinar together with Sellercloud. So, they were very gracious to us for helping them complete their mission and, helping them be able to provide the proper data to their customers. And they actually made a post for us on LinkedIn. So you can see the post yourself. You can read more what they had to say, about this, about the whole integration. So let's get under this. So this is a screenshot of what ConnectBooks on the settlement page, where you would have a list of all your disbursements, and then you would have that button export. What happens is you click, as you see, we export the data by disbursement. So every time disbursement closes, we send the full data in there. What we do on our end is we make sure to reconcile to the bank deposit. So for example, the bank deposit 137,000, we make sure to have every order, every single fee, everything that reconciles up to the bank deposit. We also will split the data by month. Let me say if your disbursement starts December 20th and finish January 5th, it will be broken up in QuickBooks, but we send the data in one time. So it's very easy, simple, click of a button, you just hit export and it's all going to go into QuickBooks. So what happens when the cost of product changes? So the answer is that ConnectBooks pulls the cost per order from Sellercloud. So if Sellercloud runs on a weighted average method, and what that means is that they run based on the average cost of a product. So you don't have to put in any cost to ConnectBooks. You don't have to do anything. When you set up your account, it's a simple sign-up process. It takes 5 minutes to create a ConnectBooks account. We connect to Amazon. We pull your data. Then we get every single order from Amazon. We take that order and we go to Sellercloud and we say, hey, Sellercloud, can you give us the cost of this order? So what happens is, let's say one order costs you $5, one order costs you $6. That won't be a problem. ConnectBooks saves it per order. Also regarding kits and bundles, it doesn't matter if you're using whatever you bundle, it doesn't matter what type of kit you use. It doesn't matter if you're using secondary SKUs, whatever you're using. We get the cost per order from Sellercloud once the product ships. So once the product ships, Sellercloud reports what the cost is, and we pull it from there. Now, what happens if an order doesn't have a cost? I know that this happens all the time. A lot of times it can even be sometimes that an order gets received in Sellercloud and it, you don't have, or I'm sorry, not it gets received. The order comes into the warehouse and it starts shipping right away and you haven't had a chance to properly receive it in Sellercloud. That can be an example. Or sometimes costs get messed up or things get messed up. So what happens when orders don't have a cost? One of the things where ConnectBooks comes in is we want to make sure before we send your data to QuickBooks, we will tell you there are products that are missing a cost. And why is that important? Because if you want to make sure that your cost of goods sold is accurate, you want to make sure your P&L is accurate, you don't want to fool yourself, you want to make sure that it says $500,000 cost of goods sold, you want to make sure that every single order is properly recorded and it has recorded properly. So what happens is when there's an order that doesn't have a cost, we will not send the data to QuickBooks. I mean, there is an option to override if you additionally want to override this, but ideally the way we set it up, that if there's an order that's missing a cost, we will say, hey, we cannot send this disbursement to QuickBooks because we are waiting for the cost. Now what happens afterwards is we will give you the orders that are missing a cost. We will give you a list of SKUs. We tell you the order ID, tell you the sample. We will give you the ASIN or the SKU, whatever you need there. And you would be able to do two options. The best option would be to go back to Sellercloud and see why these orders are not reporting a cost. You can fix it there. And let's say if you didn't receive something, you can receive it. And I think there's an option that you can recalculate the cost in Sellercloud again, and it'll regenerate the cost. And then you could do resync Sellercloud. And then we will only resync those orders that are missing a cost and bring it into our system. Or the other option is if you're saying, look, it's too hard for me at this point to fix, you can just come in over here, put in the item cost, and we will use that to calculate. So you have the option over here, as I showed you before, to resync, and then you have the option, you can just put it in yourself. Now we're going to dive in a little bit to ConnectBooks comparison reports. So once we have all the information, we have the sales data, all the Amazon fees, plus we have all the cost per product, plus the outbound shipping cost, everything from Sellercloud. We have something called a very powerful feature, which is a comparison reports. This has been a game changer for a lot of sellers. We actually just rolled this out last week. So I don't know if too many people heard about it, but just I'll give you an example in this case study what we did. So this customer, for example, had a product sold in December and his price was $35. He took the product from 35 down to 30. And his $1 million question was, I understand that when I lower my price, I'm going to get more sales, but will I actually make more money? So in this case, you have a beautiful report, which gives you the detail of every single product line by line. It's showing you the gross sales every single month, and it's showing you the profitability, and plus you have the average sale price. So as you see my highlighted lines, you can see that in the last month of in April, he actually did 44,000 sales. His profit went up to 10,000, and he actually dropped the price. And you see also along the ads, you see exactly how much the ad spend was. Additionally, like 2 new features will be coming out next week would be to see the organic sales versus not the organic sales. That will be here as well. And additionally, you can also see in the bottom the return rate of every product, like how that spikes along and how well that does. You can also get very detailed reporting. So what happens is you have the product and you see the quantity, the gross sales, all the fees, and plus we get the cost per product, meaning per order. All this comes from Sellercloud. This is a very nice detailed report. You can see exactly what's going on. Now, the idea of this report will match back to your QuickBooks. So what happens is, every software has different ways of making reports. Now, in terms of doing the proper bookkeeping, in terms of doing it the data the right way, ConnectBooks sends over the data properly, that it should match your 1099 and year end. It should match back the settlement report. All the data should match back to your Amazon numbers in terms of tax reporting and all that. So what happens is you run a P&L in QuickBooks. It says you did $1 million last month in sales. And then, this is your cost of goods sold, and these are all your fees. And let's say you only netted $20,000 after all. So the question is, okay, I know what my overhead is. The question is, what is my actual profit margin? Now, where people have difficulties afterwards is taking their numbers in QuickBooks and matching it back up to other reports, to other softwares they're using. Now, everybody has different ways of running different reports. On an order level from Amazon, there's like 7 different dates. These are the date the order comes in, these date the order gets shipped, these are the date that actually posted to your disbursement report. There's so many different dates. The question is, how do you get that data that you have in QuickBooks, break it down on a product level so you can actually see, okay, these products are making money, these products are not making money. So when you analyze your business, you want to get afterwards a breakdown of that and understand it more in detail. And over here, you'll get in detail exactly how we send the data over to QuickBooks. So when you see the report in QuickBooks and you're like, something is off, something doesn't make sense, you'll have a report that you can go back in ConnectBooks, which that will match your QuickBooks numbers, and that will give you exact clarity to break down, how the data is in QuickBooks. Now, additional features, we can categorize all different products, and you can run a lot of different categories and set things up the right way. You can also do employee access, which means that let's say you have a particular brand that you have, let's say one employee, you want an employee to take care of brand A, and you don't want them to have access to see all the reports and everything from the whole company. You can do employee access where you add an employee, and then they can have access to the ConnectBooks reports. And on the reports, they will only see the products that are assigned to them. So let's say you take a brand, you set up a brand, you assign these 20 products to this employee. When he logs in, he or she, they will only be able to see, they'll be able to see all the sales, all the fees, profitability, all that per product, but only from the products they are assigned to. The best thing is we give you a one-on-one onboarding with the expert bookkeeper. We will not it's not like, hey, here, set it up and figure this all out yourself. We will do an onboarding with a one-on-one bookkeeper, and we will make sure that you understand exactly how the data flows over to QuickBooks, how to do stuff properly, and how to get it in the right way. For any personalized service, you can just email us info@connectbooks.com. You can also go to our website, connectbooks.com, open a chat or fill out a form, reach out to us. But if you want to get direct contact with us, just shoot us an email to info@connectbooks, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And thank you everyone for joining, and thank you so much.
And that was a fantastic presentation. I want to thank you very much for joining us on this webinar today for our clients and any new customers who are interested in looking at both Sellercloud or ConnectBooks. We want to also thank everybody here for the opportunity to show off both of the softwares. I'm hoping everybody was able to gain a little bit of knowledge and insight and into the different ways that we're able to help manage and run the businesses that we have our current customers using, as well as the way that we'll be able to help manage and run your businesses in the future as well. All right, everybody, I'd like to go ahead and open up these last few minutes as well. If anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and add anything into the chat. We do have about 15 minutes. We can pretty much go over any additional questions that you might have at this point. Looks like we do have one from Thomas, and this is, how often does the data sync over into QuickBooks? Nachman, if you don't mind, I can let you handle that one.
Sure. So what we do is when we sync to Sellercloud, it syncs all day. Mean to say, every time an order comes in from Amazon, it comes into ConnectBooks, and then ConnectBooks afterwards right away syncs to Sellercloud to get the cost. So in terms of running any reports in ConnectBooks, you'll be able to run that every single day on the fly. In terms of sending the data to QuickBooks, that will only be once the disbursement closes. There's another question here that people want to know how to connect to Sellercloud. Yeah, so there is we connect via API. It is a very simple user interface that you can see once you're set up with ConnectBooks. You have your Amazon account connected. It's a simple process. You just create a username for ConnectBooks in Sellercloud, and then you just input the username and password into ConnectBooks. And then once we have access to the API, we're able to pull all the data. Other question is, what is the monthly cost? So you can see on our website the monthly cost. You will need to use our QuickBooks inventory package. For larger accounts who are looking for some enterprise pricing, the best is if they just email info@connectbooks, and we will get back to you with a quote. And then another question is, how is the ad spend not tied to a specific sale? So the answer is, in terms of the headline ads, like that's on a brand level, that we don't tie down to a product. That gets a general expense. In terms of the regular ad spend and the video ads, that we do tie down to a product. Now, we will have a feature coming up soon where you can import additional costs. And in that case, like I know I've seen sellers do, is they create like a campaign and let's say they have, even if it's a brand ad, it's just for one product. So then you'll be able to allocate additional costs. So we'll have something like that in the future, probably in the next 2 to 3 months. Then there's another question: is every single inventory cost of goods sold transaction recorded in QuickBooks? So the answer is no. The way we send the data over will be a summary in a journal entry format. There'll be one big journal entry for the whole disbursement. The idea is that QuickBooks, I mean, if it's a small account, like you're talking about, 5,000-10,000 orders a month, QuickBooks might be able to handle that. But for the larger accounts, QuickBooks will generally at some point slow down when you send over so much data. So that's where the idea is that ConnectBooks consumes all this data on our end. We make sure the data is accurate, and then we post a summary into QuickBooks. Now, if you want to get more data on the summary and you want to like kind of see more how stuff work, and then that point you go back to ConnectBooks reports where we give you the breakdown and we give you the detail of everything. It's kind of a combination. The details you have on our end, in terms of a summary, that what you'll have in QuickBooks, so you can run a proper P&L. Then somebody wants to know if they have a copy of the recording. Yes, webinars will be available. I guess Gary can answer that better than me.
Absolutely. I'll be sending a copy of the recording out to the attendee list, as well as the copy of the slides that you saw today. So the PowerPoint presentation that Nachman went through and a pitch deck as well for Sellercloud is going to be going out to everybody that's attending for today.
There's another question here. When will ConnectBooks sync with Vendor Central? So our phase one of the Sellercloud integration was we are syncing the cost per order from Sellercloud just in the marketplaces that we connect directly to. That's Amazon, and that's all the marketplaces: Walmart, eBay, Shopify. Our phase two of integration is going to be to pull all data from Sellercloud, which is going to be Vendor Central, wholesale orders, or any other marketplace that we don't integrate. We will pull that from Sellercloud, and then we will automate that process to QuickBooks. So that will be coming in our next, phase two of Sellercloud. But at the moment, it's only for what ConnectBooks connects to. So somebody has a question here. They're asking basically if they're buying stuff now, whatever they buy now, they're selling in December, and whenever they're buying now, whatever they're selling now, they bought 4 months ago. So that's the idea of running accrual basis accounting, where whatever you buy now goes into QuickBooks as an inventory asset on your balance sheet. And then ConnectBooks actually connects to Sellercloud to understand the costs better. And then in QuickBooks, we do it based on dollar value, meaning to say, let's say this month cost of goods sold was $200,000. We'll take $200,000 out of inventory and expense it. So on your profit and loss, the cost of goods sold, what you should see is only what you sold, not what you bought. What you buy now, that goes into inventory and that stays in your balance sheet. And once the sale comes in, that's in, you take it out on that.
Outside of the QuickBooks integration, Sellercloud has a couple of average costing tools that can be utilized as well for our different sellers when they're talking about doing, say, and working with repricers. And we have the ability to look at costs or purchasing costs based on first in, first out, which is a simple average cost, or we do have the ability to look at weighted average costs as well over a larger period of time, in case you would like to look at an average cost over that period of time, instead of just what's been in the warehouse or versus what's been sold.
Yeah, that's a very amazing feature. And what's important about that part where when we connect to Sellercloud, and a lot of people have, is that they use one cost for repricing in Sellercloud, and then they also have the weighted average cost, which that we use for the accounting aspect. So they have the two different types, and that part which we connect to, we kind of pull the right one. Another question is, how do you handle cash receipts to non-market customers? Do you interface with Shopify and handle every cash? We do have integration with Shopify, and we do handle cash receipts and sales all, as long as it's coming through Shopify. So now as I said before, we only pull data from Sellercloud for the marketplaces we are connected to. Our phase two of integration is to pull other data as well. So as long as it's coming through your Shopify account, ConnectBooks will have it. Other question was, are settlement reports with overlapping periods recorded in the proper month? Yes, we will record it in the proper month. What we do is we split it up. So for example, if it starts January 20th and finishes February 5th, we will record the sales in January for January and the sales in February for February. And then the payment, which gets deposited in the bank account, that gets applied on both. So that's how, when you run your balance sheet at the end of the month, or you want to see at the end of the month, okay, how much money that Amazon owes you, in terms of having a proper balance sheet, you'll see that as well.
While waiting, I see another one. We sell on some other channels that you don't connect with. Does it make sense to wait till you can pull all the data from Sellercloud before signing? Truth be told, looking at ConnectBooks, it's a fantastic tool. And a lot of the marketplaces that they're connecting in and dealing with the costs are usually the higher volume marketplaces, where you're going to want that extra level of accuracy that you might not need for, say, some of the smaller marketplaces that are there kind of with the more trickle feed for the orders, where those costs can be simply imported through general journal entries manually. But that's where, the ConnectBooks, it has every integration that you have currently in Sellercloud, or you're just using the core integrations that are there now, it's still a fantastic tool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They, it's usually the high value, and most high value is usually between Amazon and Shopify and those marketplaces. Okay, other questions. Will the prep costs be removed? So the way Sellercloud works is that, as you see on Gary's demo, they have something called a container flow. So in terms of having accurate landed cost, what you want to make sure in Sellercloud is that you create a purchase order in Sellercloud, you receive in Sellercloud, and then you run the container flow module, which will calculate your shipping costs based on CVM. So now your inventory value in Sellercloud should be landed. So ConnectBooks will, and then the cost of goods sold, once an order ships, the cost per order will be landed. So we will get from Sellercloud the landed cost. Now, in terms of outbound, we pull that as well. But that's a complete separate part. So as long as you receive in Sellercloud, do the container flow in Sellercloud, your cost will be landed. Then if you ship through Sellercloud, we will pull UPS or whatever it is, USPS, the outbound shipping from Sellercloud, and apply that all on the order level. When running a profit and loss specific time frame, in Sellercloud, will it match to ConnectBooks? So the answer is you got to compare apples to apples. So there's certain ways we run the reports, certain ways Sellercloud runs report. The answer is yes, we do match back to Sellercloud, but you need to know how to sort it that way. It needs to be done based on order date. It's going to have to be orders only, like a lot of different data that we have. Sellercloud also has, but they report it very differently and various different reports. On our beta customers, we have that we were, the one that we showed the review in the beginning of, we have been able to match it back, and we do it all the time. But just one thing, it has to be, you got to pull the same set of data in ConnectBooks as you're pulling a Sellercloud. Meaning, don't just run a P&L for last month of Sellercloud, then run a P&L in ConnectBooks and say, hey, numbers are completely off, because they will be off, because they report differently, because they have, two different agendas.
Yeah, to tie into that from Nachman, to help with the repricing, one of the big things that Sellercloud does is give expected profit and loss before we actually download and reconcile those costs using those settlement reports, say from like your Amazons or your Walmarts, your Overstocks, the eBay subsidies. With like your Shopify, we're verifying the credit card payment, so it's a little bit more day to day, so you can be a bit more accurate. But Sellercloud gives an expected right off the bat. So if you were looking to say a profit and loss report from the very last week, it may not be accurate to ConnectBooks because they're looking at the actual data from like the settlement reports and things that they're dealing with from those marketplaces to reconcile and get actual costs before those are sent and pushed into your QuickBooks. So it really depends on the time frame. As long as all those actual costs have been reconciled, they should be matched up. But if you're looking from like a day-to-day standpoint, they might not be yet sent over into your QuickBooks or into your ConnectBooks.
Yeah. Okay, next question here. Does ConnectBooks have all the fees per item? Yes, ConnectBooks will have every single fee possible, meaning to say sometimes the fee is not possible, then meaning if Amazon doesn't give it, so then we won't have it. But additionally, as mentioned before, we will have a feature where you will be able to allocate additional fees per product. So if you have some sort of way of tracking it and taking those fees and uploading it to ConnectBooks, then you'll be able to see it. Other question is, do you recognize sales before the settlement report? Do they appear in accounts receivable as aging? So the answer is the sales will not come into QuickBooks till the settlement closes. But once the settlement closes, it will come in properly. So that means to say, like if the settlement starts January 20th and it finishes February 5th, the data will flow in February 5th. However, when it flows in on February 5th, we will split it up. We will record the January sales for January and the February for February. So when you run a balance sheet as of January 31st, after you import a ConnectBooks, it will be accurate. Now, I'll add on to that two stuff. Number one is if this is like a deal breaker that you need to have the data in by the end of the month, what we have advised other clients is they can request a funds transfer from Amazon at the end of the month. So you can set, let's say, your disbursement. If you request a fund transfer every second of the month, your disbursement will close at the second of the month, and you'll be able to close out your books. We will also be having a feature to import data before the settlement closes, but that's probably something I would say in the future, somewhere like 3 to 6 months from now. It might be earlier, but the best way to know about that is on our product roadmap, where you can follow all the additional features we're releasing.
Do you or Sellercloud connect to USPS or FedEx? Yes, we connect into UPS, we connect to FedEx, USPS. We actually even have the ability to connect into Amazon shipping API to purchase shipping through Amazon using our shipping solution. We can calculate your cheapest rates to ship and print out all of your shipping labels using our included shipping software, which is called ShipBridge. And then how about WFS? Yes, we do connect into WFS for dealing with and creating WFS inbound shipments. If that's what you're meaning, I'm not sure if you're talking about costs.
So in terms of cost, to Sellercloud, meaning Sellercloud does calculate the cheapest shipping rates from UPS, FedEx, and integrates with Amazon to see if Amazon is cheaper. Now, what ConnectBooks does is ConnectBooks will get that information from Sellercloud once the order ships. So if you have ConnectBooks and Sellercloud, what I say is you get the best of both worlds. For WFS, Sellercloud integrates with WFS, and ConnectBooks has a WFS fees per item, and we will pull, the cost and the outbound shipping. If it's WFS, then shipping will be done through Amazon, through Walmart. But if it's not WFS, all that information, it's pretty much the same as Amazon. Whatever we do for Amazon, we can do for Walmart, and we kind of can pull that as well.
Looks like we have not just enough time to answer about one more question. So we're going to go answer Mike's quick question by having the FBA workflow. It pulls in orders, but if you do not have it enabled, then it won't show anything in the orders area. Will this affect it? Yes. So yeah. So with the FBA enabled workflow, if we're not pulling in the orders for you, we're not pulling in those order costs. I'm not sure. However, though, if those orders that we're not sending in or connecting into ConnectBooks, or those costs that we're not, if you're using, say, like an outside solution to manage your FBA warehouses, that's something that I'm not sure if we would be able to deal with. But ConnectBooks, Nachman, you might be able to answer their question. If so,
Yeah,
we're
so
not getting.
ideally they would need to have the FBA workflow enabled, because the whole idea of the Sellercloud integration is that the people are managing their inventory in Sellercloud. It's not just managing inventory, meaning like receiving and shipping to FBA. It's more about understanding your inventory value, understanding how much inventory is in FBA, how much inventory is in your local warehouse, making sure your stuff are properly updated. Now, I do want to point out that in one, your source of truth should be one place. Meaning, if it's Sellercloud, it's Sellercloud. Meaning, like some people like to manage in QuickBooks, which for bigger customers it's not ideal. But if you're using Sellercloud, you have to make sure that everything is there. And that's the whole idea, that you have everything in Sellercloud, and then we can connect to Sellercloud to get all the proper information. So it will have a big effect if you don't have the FBA workflow enabled.
I think that is about all the time that we have for today. Again, I'm just going to say thank you to Nachman for joining us on this webinar. It was fantastic having you here, getting all of your insight as well into the accounting side of the e-commerce world. I also want to thank all of the attendees today. Feel free, if you are interested in scheduling a demo. Again, we're going to be sending out all of the information, the recording. We're going to be sending out the different presentations, and there will also be information on how and who you can contact to book those demonstrations and get signed up for Sellercloud and ConnectBooks.